Daewoo started manufacturing loaders in 1990. And at that time it was a DL series loader. A couple years after that they introduced the Mega machine, which was another series, had some upgrades to it. A couple years after that they introduced the Mega Dash 3s. Again, more improvements into the machine, some different options, features. And then they came out with the Mega 5. Now again, this is a time span of about 15 years. So the Mega Dash 5 was the last, technically, series that Daewoo manufactured. So that brings us up to 2005 when Doosan purchased Daewoo. Now again, as I said, that Mega Dash 5 was the last one that Daewoo manufactured. And for a short stint, there were machines out there that were co-branded. So you may have seen those. It'll say Doosan and Daewoo on the machine. Again, those were the Mega Dash 5. That didn't make it very long, as one of the top priorities that Doosan had when they purchased Daewoo was they realized Daewoo had a good product, but they wanted to make it better. And one of the areas they really keyed in on was durability. There were some durability issues with the Daewoo machines, so they went to work right away on R&D, looking into that machine. How can we fix it? How can we make it better? So with that, they came out with what you currently see in front of you, the DL series, and that was the Doosan fully branded machine, which came out in late 2005, early 2006. So that, in essence, is a brief history lesson of how Doosan came about as far as the wheel loader side. Now moving on to the model lineup. Currently, Doosan offers 10 different models. As far as the models go, our smallest one is a DL200. We offer a DL220, which you see in front of you, a 250, a 300, 350, 420, 450, and a 500. And then we also offer 2 tool carriers, a DL200 tool carrier and a DL250 tool carrier. We have a 250 right here. We also offer what is called a high lift option. We offer 6 different models where you can get that high lift. Now in just a couple moments I'll tell you the differences as far as our standards, our tool carrier, and the high lift. But before I get to that point, I've thrown out a lot of models at you guys. So what does that model mean? Is there any representation to it? For example, the DL220. DL, Doosan loader. Pretty easy to remember. Anyone have any idea what that 220 represents? Any guesses? Not operating weight. It represents the standard bucket that goes on that machine. So in this instance, it'd be 2.2 cubic meters. Now in the North American world, everything is in yards, how it's measured. So you got to keep that in mind that this is represented in meters and not yards. But, simple conversion, majority of people can figure that out quite easily. So that is what our model numbers represent. Now you'll notice over here, DL250TC, TC stands for tool carrier. So now let's touch base real quick on what are the differences. Well, we have our standard front, standard booms on the front, standard Z-bar on the front. We'll touch more on the Z-bar when we do the walk around, the benefits, kind of the design principles, things like that. So that's our standard. Now if you had a high lift, it would look very, very similar to this. The Z-bar on the front, the only difference is a longer boom. If you looked at a side profile, that bucket would be about another 18 inches farther out on the ground. So it would be just farther away from the machine. Those using high lifts, it's just a person that needs more dumping height, more reach, things like that. Dumping into higher sided trucks, higher sided hoppers, things like that. Now you'll notice the tool carrier. That's a little bit different compared to what we're looking at here. We went away with the Z-bar. You have 2 parallel linkage coming down the side. Primarily somebody that's looking at a tool carrier machine is going to use that machine as a pick and place machine.